I'm going to share my screen. Perfect. Okay. So thank you for joining us today. For those of you who don't know, my name is Monique Bayanatan. I'm the brigade coordinator. On this call is also Andrew Hyder. He's the developer advocate. He'll be sort of talking about the awesome projects that you guys did at CodeAcross, and I'll sort of be going over high-level numbers and just a recap of what happened that day. So not this past weekend, but the weekend before, we had CodeAcross. These are the things that we're going to be talking about today. So participation, government and community partners, outcomes identified by CFA, outcomes that you guys had identified, which were far more interesting than the ones that we had identified, press and social media. Andrew's going to do This Week in Civic Tech, CodeAcross edition, and we're going to go over things to improve and next steps. We got some really good feedback from a lot of you, so it'll be really good to sort of go over that. And a lot of you guys who put really interesting comments in the feedback are actually on the call. So if you guys want to sort of have a discussion around the things that you guys brought up, we'd be more than happy to do that with you. Also, there's not a lot of people on the call, so feel free to interrupt at any time if you have any questions. So just to recap, this is our timeline of the year. We have 3 main events in 1 year. The first one, which was 2 weekends ago, was CodeAcross. It coincided with International Open Data Day. And then in June, we'll be having National Day of Civic Hacking. And in November, we'll have Code for America's annual summit. And we'll still have the pre-summit edition, which is specifically for brigades. Okay, what were the numbers? So we had 42 cities participate this year. This is the list of all the cities that had registered with us. And just for comparison, I pulled up the numbers from 2015. So you can see that participation has decreased. We sort of expected that. We knew that because of the money constraints, we knew that this would happen. I distinctly remember being in a meeting with Hannah like in January, and we were both like, okay, if we get 20 cities that participate, this is good. Like, this will be a success. So we had 42 cities participate, which is more than double. So we were really happy about that. And we still had 7 international cities participating, 2,400 people, 35,000 hours hacked. The reason why I put it in quotes is because a lot of you actually didn't have traditional hackathons. A lot of you guys did design thinking workshops, or you guys had a lot of discussions or panels or other events, which was really interesting. I know last year we issued challenges, technical challenges, and this year we didn't. So that was different. And it was the first big event for 3 new brigades, and we really want to recognize those 3 brigades. They were DeKalb, Illinois, which actually Christopher was there, Open San Mateo County, and Orlando, Florida. So it was really great to see participation from those new brigades. And just
Monique, I just want to interrupt. Your screen is not being shared.
Oh.
So we're not seeing your slides.
Really? Let's see.
Yeah, it's just showing your video of you.
Is it just showing my face? Sorry, guys. Let's see. Can you see my screen? Okay, awesome. Thank you for letting me know. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so all good. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, let's see. So I didn't go through that much. It was actually just like the agenda written out, which I verbally went over, and then just the 3 main events that we have in 1 year, the 42 cities that had registered with us, and here are the numbers from 2015 and 2016. So another thing I kind of wanted to just point out, you sort of see the numbers at the bottom of how many report backs we got. So last year we had about 80% report back, and this year similar amounts. Actually, 2 of the events didn't happen on the 5th. 2 of the events are happening, I think, this weekend and the weekend after. So that's just something to note. 2 brigades haven't had their events yet for CodeAcross, and that's fine. So first time for some, 5th time for others. You can sort of see that for most of the brigades, this was their 3rd event, but this sort of just shows you where you stand compared to everyone else who is participating. And same with this. This sort of shows how many events had, how many people were at each events that you guys held. So most of the events had between 1 and 100 people, and there was one event that had over 250 people, and that was New York. So you sort of see where you guys lie in this, and it's good to see where the rest of the network lies. So government and community partners. We were super thrilled to read all of your partners this year. You guys had 52 government partners, and just to clarify, like if you guys had partnered with multiple departments within your local government entities, because a lot of you partnered with like immigration and then planning and then health, and so I kind of counted those separately. But just for comparison, last year and the year before, the network aggregated, we only had about 30 government partners. So even though our participation decreased this year, our number of government partners has increased significantly. So that's really awesome. 25 community partners and 4 university partners. This is a trend that we've been seeing, a lot more participation from students, whether it be university, college students, or high school students. So that's been really great to see. Last year, there was only 1 university partner. So that's interesting, and we can talk about that more later. That's one of the feedback items that we had. So outcomes identified by CFA. So we, at the end of 2015, we sort of all sat down and we were like, okay, what are we going to do for 2016? There were a lot of things that were up in the air. We weren't really sure what the strategy for the brigade program would be moving forward. And so we do admit that this timeline that we sort of gave you, these objectives that we had given you for the beginning of 2016 were pretty vague, like cultivate government and community partners. I mean, a lot of you would have had that already. Like this would have been useful for a new brigade, but for a lot of you who are more established, this is pretty repetitive. Like you would have already had to do this. And then host a workshop to help government and community partners identify user needs. That would have been great. The only problem is that we didn't really provide the resources to help you actually be able to execute on that, and we recognize that. And then March 5th at CodeAcross prototype solutions to the problem statements you and your partners identified. Again, pretty big, and we didn't really provide a structure beyond that. And so that's just something that we recognize, and it's something that we definitely have to improve moving forward. What was really interesting was that in the survey, I had sort of asked you guys to identify outcomes that you were excited about, and there were a lot of themes that came up. It's sort of good to see that a lot of you are thinking about going in the same directions, even though you guys are so geographically dispersed. So, I mean, the ones in bold are the ones that came up more often than others, but for a lot of you, you want to use these events to sort of increase your membership and expose yourselves to the local developers that exist there. So you sort of use these big events as key moments where you can attract a lot more people than usual. And that's the goal for a lot of you. And then also, I mean, consistently throughout your work, you want deeper and more meaningful engagement with your local governments, which is fantastic. And then this sort of goes with the first point, but increase youth and student involvement. This has come up several times where a lot of you guys have recognized that you have young students who are living in your communities and you want to be able to retain that talent. And one of the ways that you want to do that is by having them come to the events and having them be excited about the Civic Tech projects that you guys are working on. So yeah, I think that's something that like we, the brigade team, want to take, and we want to be able to support you with that. So yeah, we're making a note of that, and we think it's really exciting as well. And then the last one, laying the groundwork for National Day of Civic Hacking. This also came up numerous times. A lot of you guys were using this event to sort of frame projects or to start forming groups so that when National Day comes in June, you guys can sort of start and you have a really well-framed project to work on. And you have groups that are already established, that already have relationships with either a community organization or a local government entity. And that's really great to see. And we want to be able to support you guys in that as well. So press and social media, it was pretty active. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but I'll link to this presentation in the forum. But these are the ones that I heard of in terms of news. If there are any missing, I think you have comment power on this presentation, so please feel free to add your local news or press in. We want to be able to have them all on one document. Mayors and Twitter. So I had to include this. I'm from Toronto, so I had to put this. The mayor of Toronto did not go to the CodeAcross event, but he recognized that he was disappointed that he missed it. So that was great to see. But there were other mayors who were actually able to go to the events, which was really exciting for us to see. Get your selfie with your San Jose mayor. And then the mayor of DeKalb, actually Christopher was there, so that was really great. And then Louisville had their mayor there as well. And if anyone else had their mayors present, please let us know and show us a picture because we'd love to see it. So this week in Civic Tech, we're going to have a CodeAcross edition, and Andrew's here, so he's going to talk to you guys about that.
All right. Good morning, everybody. So we collected a whole bunch of stories from the CodeAcross weekend, and we collected them. I wanted to show them off. We got it. Cool. Yeah. So first off, this was a pretty big day of action all across the network. So there's way more than I could actually show off in a presentation like this. So if I missed your project or your cool thing you guys are working on, it was most likely because you didn't have a shareable link for me to share real quick, or I just missed it. I apologize. But look at all this cool stuff that happened. The largest event of CodeAcross was definitely Beta NYC's School of Data. And that was because it was a birthday party for their open data law. How many of you all have thrown birthday parties for your open data law? Well, they did, and it was enormous. They had what was it, 250 people, 270 people?
200, over 270.
Right, and they wrote this really good blog post about it. You'll be able to check it out from the link. All this great stuff happened. They had so many people. They had all these presentations. They had like the little map of where they all were at the event, just like a real conference. They even provided childcare, which was able to bring a lot more people and families out to this event on the weekend than would normally be able to come to a hackathon. That was really good. And they got all of these great stories, including this one. When someone is explaining to you a really important data science concept, this is how you feel. all right, sorry. Okay,
we love that.
Yeah,
we want everyone to feel that way.
Tweet. Great. So New York City School of Data, awesome. Couple things to shout out. There's a ton of mapping projects, like there always are in Civic Tech. Open SMC to San Mateo County is one of the newest brigades, and they were mapping out a bunch of social service providers. The first university brigade we have, which is in DeKalb, Husky Hack, they're mapping out all their farmers markets. just like the traditional intro to civic technology project, right? That was really good. Another common one we see a lot early mapping projects is mapping out early childhood education centers. And here's one from Code for Croatia. I think this is like an existing platform, but the volunteer groups like used data from it and like added to it and did a bunch more research to get more cities included. Now we just really liked it because of the name
Gugalaga.
Yeah, and the little icons are cute. But it's a traditional good civic tech project. They're mapping out where the kindergartens are, the daycare centers, all that kind of stuff, and it's a very common type of project across
the globe.
Yeah, across the globe. We one of our favorite ones we keep bringing up is this great project from Code for Sapporo in Japan, and it's called it's the same type of map, very well designed, and it's called Papa Mama. Really like it. Okay. Another mapping one I wanted to show off was Code for Anchorage made a Find a Park map, which is also another like pretty introductory civic tech project that's great for new volunteers. The reason I wanted to call it out is that they're using this program called Finda, which Code for Boston made, and they've tried to just solve the searchable stuff on a map problem. So it works really well in mobile. It filters really well. You can search things really easily. And it's all volunteer built from our friends at Code for Boston. And we've seen it reused about 10 different times in different projects. So if you need to make searchable stuff on a map for mobile, check out Find a Code for Boston. All right. A couple interesting events. Open Pittsburgh. Maybe you talk about this one.
Yeah. I mean, I thought this one was super interesting. So Open Pittsburgh, they had a very specific hackathon where they were specifically focusing on getting females into the room and pushing edits for Wikipedia. And it was specifically to address the gender bias that exists on that platform, which is that 90% of the editors are male. And that really drives the type of content that exists in Wikipedia and just the way things are talked about or written about. So I thought that was really interesting. I personally just have a lot of friends who are really passionate about this. So good job.
Right. Open Austin ran a really great event as well. Monique was actually there. And they used CodeAcross as a preparation for National Day of Civic Hacking, and they did it in a really effective way, we thought. So they talked about a lot of their project ideas beforehand here on GitHub, or even during the day of the event, and they structured the project and tried to capture the conversation within the GitHub issue. We just think that pattern is really useful for volunteer-built civic technology. The people that aren't at the hack night can also fully see everything that's going on. But they use this thing that I think they came up with called the Civic Tech Planning Canvas. And it's an iteration of the Lean Business Canvas, if you guys have seen or heard of that, where it really helps you walk through the steps of figuring out who the users are and the blockers, and there's all of this stuff about your activity, right?
Yeah, it helps you sort of identify, clearly articulate what the problem is, who the users are, who the stakeholders are, what the obstacles are, and then key actions that you need to take to move that forward. And this is actually what they're using as a precursor to National Day of Civic Hacking. So the idea was that people would come and they would frame these projects or frame these ideas, and then at National Day they'll sort of be able to jump right into it. And the projects would be more successful because they were clearly thought out and well planned.
What's your guess about how many different groups were at?
There were 11, I think 11 projects that came out of it, and it was an all-day activity.
So you can picture it like 11 different groups all huddled together, working around these planning canvases and like really thinking through a project in a really smart way right in the beginning. That's if you want, we've got a link to this planning canvas. Monique will be sure to share so you can use use it in your groups as well. We've seen the use of it spread really far. Another story from Code for Japan, they actually really liked the idea, and they took it and they translated it into Japanese, and I've got links to that in here as well. All right. Oh my gosh, and there's so many cool projects. I'm going to take just a few more minutes to show off a bunch more links. Code for Seoul always does great work. They this time they threw an event around data visualization for economic data. So I'm going to show off which ones to do exactly. But this one, Where Does My Money Go, is a very classic project. This has actually existed for a long time, and they've it's just really good visualizations about the taxes that you pay and like where that money goes and how much it affects for these different buckets and stuff. So it's like a complicated idea shown off in a really nice way. Let's try this one too. Yeah, this is Get Out of Debt. You can see that just very nice, good design. All people riffing on important economic data. See if this place can get out of debt. Does this one have any debt? Let's see. Oh, okay, yeah, it's got some, right. But I like those animations, I like the data, and it must have just been a really fun event to have all this data out there and then see what people come up with. Great work, Code for Seoul. Code for San Francisco did a couple cool projects. One of them is they're working on a brigade website template that all other brigades could use, and they're really trying to think through it from being one of the larger volunteer civic hacking groups and make it really useful for everybody. It's just emerging. It's called Brigade Hub, and we'll have tons more links on it as it emerges. Another thing that Code for San Francisco did is they sort of launched their data science working group. This is a group of volunteers who show up each week, and they raise their hand to work on any of the data science problems that any of the other groups have. And they're really effective, and they have a lot of output. So I just linked to one of the many projects that they're working on. We've got the people here. But they even put out their analysis on GitHub so everyone can sort of see what they're going through. I think this whole project is around 3-in-1 data. You can start to see they like really dive into it. And it's such a great resource for all the other projects that are happening in Code for San Francisco to just have this type of expertise to lean on almost whenever they need on any given hack night, right? So that pattern of organizing into different working groups or different topic groups has been one that is working out really well for a couple of groups. You might want to think about it for your group. Code for Atlanta had a bunch of cool projects. Two different groups, Code for Durham and Code for Tulsa, spent the day adding more categories onto CityGraham.org. CityGraham is a Code for America fellowship project that's now maintained by a Charlotte brigade, and it sends you relevant open data to your phone. You get text messages about things that you think are important in the areas that you think are. So what the brigades did is they added like one of these new categories as a possibility to be notified. Good for them. Code for Hawaii was doing some great work. They had lots of different projects. I linked to one of them. And Code for San Jose also. I like to link to it just because they had a bunch of dashboards up, all just on this fire department data. I love it as an example of like, okay, here's this data set. Let's just explore. Let's just see what happens. I like to show off all the different types of projects. So again, many more projects happen. CodeAcross, and more than I could link to here. But if you like this little presentation, just this quick snapshot about all the different projects being worked on across the Civic Tech movement last week, I try and gather them almost every week. I put the link into the chat. It's called c4a.me/thisweekincivictech. And it's always in slide form like this. And I put it in slides so that you could present it at your hack nights if your group is set up that way. It's a really great way to like quickly start the evening. It's usually a lot less projects than this. And I try and capture some of the best like news pieces and blog posts or whatever from the last week. A couple of the successes from like good press about different groups and their events, but also the projects. And the projects I like to show off from brand new experiments and prototypes and just random data exploration all the way to fully launched and fully baked projects that have tons of support, just to show the wide range of what people are hacking on. So if you're interested in it, check out This Week in Civic Tech. I also try and combine it into a blog post every so often. Find that on the Code for America blog. But that, my friends, was This Week in Civic Technology. Thank you.
CodeAcross edition. Like Andrew mentioned, it's just really great to see just the recap of what everyone has been working on from week to week. And if you guys are attracting students and new people coming in the door and they're like, hey, what are you guys all about? What are some of the things that you guys are working on? This Week in Civic Tech is a really great resource to point them to be like, here is the whole breadth of activities that we do. Okay, so things to improve. The feedback that we received for CodeAcross and the resources and programming that we offer to you. Marketing resources. So we provide like these graphics, these icons, postcards. We had this really awesome flowchart that was designed by Molly, who is our designer here. We have a new designer. It's not like she left. And yeah, we just these designs that you could use to print stickers or whatnot. Helpful to 60%, somewhat helpful to 15%, not helpful to 12%. And this is some of the feedback that we got. So yeah, I mean, the ones that are in bold are the ones that came up several times. But I just want to go through them because they're pretty interesting, and we can sort of talk about whether we think one would be more useful than the other. But a video introduction to open data for total newbies so that they can orient themselves. And along with that, tutorials on Civic Tech so that newbies can orient themselves. So that's pretty interesting. I think that's, again, like new people, maybe students coming in the door, and maybe like the core team just not having enough time to give them an orientation specifically on open data or specifically on Civic Tech and the brigade. It's just a lot of information to give them all at once. This one came up a lot. And we've been talking about this too, but a physical handout or brochure that explains the very basics of CFA and the brigade program to hand out to officials so they can actually walk away with something. Yeah, I think that would be great. That's something that we definitely want to do. SVG of all image assets, that's easy to do. We hear you. We'll be sure that those are available for National Day. Fully templated web page for events came up a bunch of times, so we can talk about that too. CodeAcross banner for photos and swag, please. Yes, I think this was the first year this was the first year we didn't send you anything. We do have a budget for National Day, so you will be getting stuff for National Day. And then we did get a lot of like thanks for all the social media help, which would be Zoe, our marketing manager. So we just wanted to give a shout out to her. Planning resources. So more than half of you guys attended a planning webinar. We had two. We had one in January, one in February. This is some of the feedback we got. So a planning template with a to-do list for each month. I love that because that's how I work, and I would want that too. So I think that's great, especially because you need to do different things at different times. And we do want to be able to give that to you. And we have that information like between you guys and us. We have that information. It's just a matter of codifying it. More in-depth information on building project partners. This is actually a pretty specific scenario where one of the groups was really, really great at getting a lot of different community-based organizations to attend CodeAcross. And then once they were there was sort of a disconnect between like the developers and designers and those community groups. So for example, like 15 developers and designers went to one community organization, and then 4 community organizations just didn't have a team to work with. So just thinking through like different strategies that we can use to make sure that the teams are equal, And that, if community organizations take the time to actually come to your event, how do we make sure that they actually feel supported and they feel like they actually have a team that they can work with when they're actually there for the whole day? More structure to webinars with clear, actionable takeaway points. Got it. That's on us. So we got that. And more time and space for captains to bounce ideas between each other. Yeah, I mean, we really want to be able to facilitate this. I think I would love to hear more from you guys about this, because I understand that you guys want your own space. But certainly, we are more than happy to be the coordinator behind that, to find times for you guys that work for you guys, or find space for you guys. So we'll work on that. I think we'll probably try different things, and then you guys can tell us which ones you like better. More fundraising tips. We're working on it. Our development team a lot of people had left, so we were it was half the size that it should have been, and now we're finally having a full development team, and I'm really wanting them to be available for you guys. So we're working on that. Thumbs up. We had thumbs up on Harlan's discussion on project planning was particularly helpful to a lot of folks. Again, that's recorded and posted on our forum. And Waffle IO's presentation on Hackshop was really great. We might have them come back again before National Day just to refresh people who missed it or anything like that. Suggestions for preparing events. This goes back to the printed brochure, but talking points from CFA about brigades. One pager describing what the outcomes are. Totally agree with that. More time for planning. We have one more month to plan for National Day than we did for CodeAcross, so we're gonna really try and make the best of it. A clear, articulated agenda for the day. I think that one's really great. Yeah, and we want to be able to provide different versions so you can sort of choose which one is appropriate for your group. This would be for next year, but better integration with open data day, and a nice list of easier to use data analysis tools. Okay, suggestions for shipping projects. This is an ongoing thing that we're working on. Sorry, I'm just gonna mute. Not muted. Oh, okay, great. So again, this is a constant struggle for us, and Andrew's always been working on improving this, but ways that we can have more bite-sized tasks to give to people when they walk in the door. Andrew built the Civic Tech issue finder, which has been really helpful for some folks, but we understand that it's something that we need to keep working on, and it's a real need for you guys, so it's something that we want to keep working on. Make it easier to find what other brigades have made, so we can say, here's how this other brigade approached this in their community. Again, the project search tool that Andrew built, that's one way of quickly going in and searching projects that are similar to yours that might have been completed in another city or in another country. So we recognize that that's a really big need. We're working on it, and we really are working towards improving it. Would love to see more inter-brigade interaction over CodeAcross and similar events. Yeah, we've heard this a lot, especially, I think CityGraham was a really great example. We had two groups working on CityGraham, and I don't think they knew at the time that they were both working on it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, so just CFA being more proactive about knowing what people are doing so that we can play mix and match behind the scenes, and get you guys connected before the event so you know who else is working on similar projects. Okay, so with all of that, we sort of have condensed it into certain things that we're focusing on. And again, this can be a discussion if you feel that we should be focusing on some things more than others. But we are really seriously considering renaming CodeAcross. We've just heard a lot of feedback around, it being confusing with International Open Data Day. Coincidentally, Christopher this week is in Poland meeting with our international partners, and it was something that came up on his end, so there was synergy there. When I sort of told him about this, he was like, oh, Code for All is thinking of taking on the planning for International Open Data Day. So it'd be great if we could just maybe drop CodeAcross and then run with International Open Data Day, led by Code for All. That might be an interesting idea. And then, yeah, just we've heard this before, but just issues with the word code. Not everyone comes in as a coder, and we don't necessarily do that all day. So it's a little bit misleading. And then the second thing that we really want to focus on for next year especially is using CodeAcross, or whatever we end up naming it, in preparation for National Day of Civic Hacking. So we heard you want more integration between the two events, and that totally makes sense. Possibly having specific challenges available for the large days of action. We definitely will have challenges for National Day, so that's good. And then encouraging the use of the Civic Tech project planning canvas. So, I mean, we're thinking of hosting a webinar where Austin and their IT department can sort of walk through how to use this. But this is the link to the PDF. It's really great. Yeah, and then the last thing, so planning and collaboration resources, more fundraising tips and webinars. We're definitely going to do that. More templates for agendas, downloadable physical brochure, web templates, further coordination between brigade leaders so that you guys can collaborate amongst each other. More brigades learning from brigades. We love to do this, and we always try to be really organized and get leaders to lead webinars. We understand that you guys don't have a lot of time, so we want to also be respectful of the time that's available to you, but certainly if you want to lead something, please feel free to let us know, and we'd be more than happy to organize it for you. More resources on attracting students to brigades and days of action. This is something that's new for us, and we understand that it's new for you too, but we want to be able to provide the resources so you can really be able to successfully attract those students and hopefully in the long run be able to retain the talent that exists in your cities. We think that's extremely important. So it's something that, we just went through these results this week, so it's fairly new to us, but it's definitely something that we're thinking about, and we know that it's going to be a priority for 2016 and for 2017, so it's on our radar, and we know we're thinking of ways of how we can support you guys with that. And further coordination and integration between brigade projects. This is not new, but again, I think it just shows the importance of it. And I think...